Well, let's now speak to former FBI agent Jason Pack. Welcome to BBC News. What are your thoughts after everything that's unfolded overnight there in Washington?
Oh, good morning. We certainly know a lot of information in just a few hours' time, don't we? Like we heard from the Washington, D.C. police chief, the FBI assistant director in charge of the Washington field office, and the head of the Secret Service, all about those facts of this suspect just 2 hours before, who had come and ran into that outer checkpoint with a shotgun. And the fact that the person had a shotgun, a handgun, and knives, he was heavily armed, and the fact that the agents were able to tackle him to the ground with that much firepower is certainly remarkable. We know that that Secret Service Uniform Division agent did have a shot to the vest, and so that protected him. Thankfully, no one was more seriously injured. So having said that, there is a lot going on right now, too. Out in California, the FBI and the Secret Service are likely conducting search warrants, as your previous guest mentioned, for the suspect's social media, for his apartment that he's at there. They're going to want to see through a timeline how he got there, when he got there, who he was talking to, both in real life and online, to see what types of things may have motivated him. A lot of times we talk about what's called this pathway to violence, and that is where these ideas kind of fester, and then people take action on them, and they begin to plan. And then some people say, well, what about mental health? And so what we've seen a lot of times is that it's not one or the other. It's kind of maybe a combination of both. And so because Judge Pirro there in the District of Columbia has filed these federal charges against the suspect, they're going to want to have all this evidence for motive and all the evidence from the physical crime scene there of the trajectory of the bullets, those types of things that FBI's evidence response team is going to be able to bring together for that prosecution.
What do you make of the fact that, according to the authorities, the suspect was able to get multiple weapons, high caliber weapons, into this high profile hotel?
Well, it seems like having been a guest there is what we know now. That's the preliminary information that they told us at that press conference. It may be a little easier to get that in. There are no, I don't think, metal detectors for guests to scan their luggage. So maybe he snuck it in a suitcase, a backpack, something like that, was able to get it up to his room and then get it down tonight. You know, maybe he came in earlier. That's something that they're going to look at, pulling the video, security video from the Washington Hilton there, working with the hotel security. They'll be able to piece all that together to see how that happened. Having said that, they plan for these things months and months in advance. And the Metropolitan Police Department there in Washington, the Secret Service, and really all law enforcement in the area work pretty tightly together to plan these events. These Secret Service agents likely have stood post at these perimeters for years and years, and nothing ever happens. But tonight, you saw they had little time to react, and when they did, they were able to effectively prevent that shooter from going into that room. So a lot of after-action things to do here, a lot of after-action items to discuss, but I think they'll do that in due time. Right now, the main focus is making sure that they get the evidence needed to prosecute this person and figure out the why behind this crime.
I don't know if you can answer this question. How high is the threat against President Trump compared to previous presidents? We heard in that press conference a lot of journalists asking him how worried he is for his safety. Of course, there have been 2 other previous assassination attempts against the president.
Well, certainly Americans live in a divided society. There's no doubt about that. But the Secret Service has what's called a protective intelligence division. And so they're constantly looking at threats against the president and other cabinet members to pass that along and share intelligence. So it is a difficult job. And the president himself mentioned that at the press conference. It's hard. It's a hard job. And people who will come after you if they think that you're doing something that they don't want to. So he acknowledged that in there. Having said that, he did say he was quite confident in the abilities of the Secret Service. So there's a little give and take in security, particularly because the Washington Hilton is a functioning hotel. Even during the White House Association's Correspondents' dinner there, there's still guests that have nothing to do with that event that stay there. So it's really a balance, and maybe something that they'll have to go back and revisit after this and see.
Yes, the president has spoken quite positively about the security situation around him, saying it was much better tonight compared to the Butler rally, where there was that attempted assassination against the president. Do we know how much the security operation around the president has changed since then?
Well, that is a better question for the Secret Service, and likely they won't tell us too much because they want to keep those changes close to the vest. But this layered approach that the service uses, and really a lot of law enforcement and protective detail type law enforcement units, whether that's state government or federal government, they all kind of train under the same mantra. That layered approach keeps you as safe as possible. The bad guys have to be right only once, but the law enforcement folks have to get it right every time. And so having that layered approach will keep folks as safe as possible. Not to say that things can't be improved, because after every event, every time, they'll get together and do this after action thing and see what worked, what needs to be tweaked, and what was really helpful during those meetings.
You mentioned a little bit about the investigation that's likely to unfold. We understand that the suspect, Cole Thomas Allen, has been taken to hospital for assessment. Just give us a sense of what the FBI will be doing in the coming hours.
Well, there's a lot going on. The FBI agents assigned to the Washington field office there will attempt to interview the suspect, to make sure there's nobody else involved. And from all accounts, from the highest levels all the way down to the field folks, it doesn't appear to be anybody else involved. In fact, they called it a lone wolf operation. They're going to make double sure of that. At the same time, the evidence response team will be processing the hotel area. Agents assigned to the Washington field office will team up with Metropolitan Police and the Secret Service, and they're going to have to interview everyone who may have encountered this person. The hotel staff that checked him in. Does he have a rental car? Did he fly? All these types of logistical questions they'll have to answer from the Washington field office. In places like in the Los Angeles field office in California, the agents there would be running down those leads that would affect where he lived, where he might have worked, any kind of law enforcement encounters he may have had out there. Was he known to law enforcement out there? A lot of work to be done and a lot of questions to answer. And we know there already have been 2 charges filed against him in the District of Columbia, one for bringing a gun, using a gun in furtherance of a violent crime, and also assault on a federal officer. So those 2 charges already in place. The evidence they gather both in Washington and California and wherever else the case takes them will be put together to see if there were any other violations of federal law.
Jason Pack, former FBI agent, thank you for joining us on BBC News and sharing your expertise.